Before starting this video, I want you guys to guess which emulator is being used in the left for the gameplay and which one on the right. Comment down below and I'll reveal it at the end of this video. With that being said, let's begin. Hey, what's up guys, it's ApTreX here. In today's video, we'll be comparing the latest version of Skyline Infinity, which is the Infinity 1.1.1 to the Yuzu emulator Android build number 215. Because after the latest update of Skyline Infinity, I was very curious how well will the emulator perform against Yuzu. So in today's video, we'll be enabling dock mode in both of these emulators and I'll be using the Mesa Turnip Adreno driver revision 16 for the best amount of performance possible, and we'll be going head on towards the Yuzu emulator Android in Pokemon Sword to see which game runs the best, which has the least amount of graphical issues, which has the best amount of performance and compatibility. So before starting, if you guys are new here, smash that like button, subscribe, turn on all notification as I upload similar videos on my channel. Let's get started. I'd also like to bring this to your attention that we have enabled dock mode and both of these games will be emulated at 1x native resolution, so we won't be downscaling the graphics because we want to see in realistic environment how much FPS can we get. For that, first of all, let me tell you guys the device which I am using is iQOO12 with Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 processor and 16GB of RAM. Now it's a bit overkill because as you can see, even in main menus it literally goes over 200 FPS, and during the open world scenarios the amount of FPS that we get will be pretty good. So let's go to the meetup spot to see how well does it perform in open world scenarios. Now one tip I always give you guys when emulating Pokemon Sword on Skyline emulator is the fact that after you go to any location, just wait for few seconds until the shaders are compiled, as it will give you a major boost in terms of performance. And here you will be able to see that at least during these scenarios there aren't any major graphical issues while emulating Pokemon Sword or Shield on Skyline Infinity emulator. The FPS that we are getting is also way more than playable, because I know if you try playing the same game on a Snapdragon 888 processor Android device, you don't even get around 30 to 40 FPS. But if you play it on any 8 Gen 2, 8 Gen 3 device, then obviously even when I'm not screen recording, I get almost 5 to 10 FPS more than what you are seeing, because I am screen recording and due to the CPU usage, the FPS that you are seeing are bit low compared to what you would realistically get. So let's talk about low-end devices, because right here as you just saw, the game freezes sometimes. It's a normal bug with all the emulators, and if you have an low-end Android device, I believe that the performance will be major factor affecting your gameplay, because you won't care about the graphical issues. Like you see right here, there is one imprint graphical issues. There are slight shadows printed on the screen, even though we have left that scenarios that will usually go away after the scene changes, but it is still present with Skyline emulator. And as I was telling, if you guys have a low-end device, you only care about performance. If so, then go with Skyline Infinity emulator with Mesa Turnip Adreno driver revision 16 that will provide you with almost 2 times better performance than what you are getting. Now many of you guys also comment on my videos saying that you are unable to use Mesa Turnip Adreno drivers. For them, there is only one suggestion, that wait for the upcoming updates of Turnip drivers. And you need to have Adreno 6 series GPU or above. You can also report your bug to the developers of these GPU drivers. That would make sure that the developer pays attention and manages to fix the bug in future. With that being said, let's move on towards Yuzu emulator Android's Pokemon Sword test. As usual, I'll be using an save file like you see right here, and let's go to system. Let me show you guys that dock mode should be enabled, because as I mentioned before, we want to test out in realistic scenarios with highest level of graphic quality as well as highest level of FPS that's possible. So resolution will be also set to 1x, speed percentage is set to 400% so that we go above 30 FPS. Disk shader cache, force maximum clocks and asynchronous shaders have been enabled as usual, and will be running the native code execution for CPU backend. Those are the best settings for Pokemon Sword in Yuzu emulator Android, but the main problem with Yuzu is that your device may not be compatible, as it has trouble supporting low-end Android devices, especially those with MediaTek GPU compared to that of Skyline emulator. Anyways, I have just launched the game and now we'll find out first of all that compared to Skyline Infinity emulator, immediately even during the cutscene you will notice that the graphic quality is pretty crisp and there are no graphical issues whatsoever while emulating this game. Very rarely will you find any graphical glitch, because Pokemon Sword has been optimized in terms of graphics performance, at least in Yuzu emulator Android. At the top left corner you will be able to notice that in open world scenarios, unlike Skyline Infinity, we are getting almost 15 to 20 FPS less. But let's head on over to the meetup spot where we started testing in Skyline Infinity emulator to see or compare the performance. Once we spawn in, again wait for few seconds until the FPS goes up, then only you can start moving. But in case of Yuzu emulator Android, the FPS growth isn't really major because I can see lot of stuttering issues unlike Skyline. In Skyline the gameplay is pretty stable, but just take a look at this. There are so many stuttering issues in instances, like the game is slow for a second but then again it just speeds up just like that. So it's not stable gameplay experience if you are hoping for that. But to fix this or counteract this, I would recommend you guys to decrease the graphics resolution, disable dock mode, and also limit speed percentage should be decreased to 200%, so you can expect the 30 FPS smooth gameplay. But on a Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 processor Android device, this performance isn't acceptable and all these stuttering issues are just annoying and it won't give you an playable gameplay experience. But on the bright side, compared to Skyline Infinity, you can notice that the graphical issues have been fixed. There are very rarely any graphical issues, so that's the plus point. Well, even with my Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 Android device, if I'm getting stuttering issues and low FPS or frame drops, then I can't imagine what will be the state of this game while emulating it on a low-end Android device. So even though Yuzu emulator has improved quite a lot in both terms of FPS as well as gameplay experience and even graphics quality, I would still not recommend you guys to go with this emulator if you want to emulate games like Pokemon Sword. Whereas if you want to emulate Pokemon Scarlet, then go for Yuzu emulator Android, unlike Skyline, because in Skyline Infinity there is a problem of low FPS as well as graphical issues that you won't face on Yuzu Android. Whereas in Pokemon Sword, unlike Skyline Infinity, there are a lot of stuttering issues, and even unlike Pokemon Scarlet, it doesn't run that well for some reason. So that will be the conclusion of our today's video. Skyline Infinity still reigns supreme over Yuzu emulator Android, but make sure to add some save files and save your progress at every point in Skyline Infinity emulator if you want to use it for Pokemon Sword, because as I showed you guys before, you might face game freezing issues or graphical issues that may break the emulator. So saving your game state is very important, unlike Yuzu. Anyways, that's going to be it for today's video. Thanks for watching. Make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, turn on all notification. And here's the answer of the first question which I asked. The left side was being emulated on Skyline Infinity and the right side was being emulated on Yuzu Android. Anyways, that's it for today's video. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Peace out.